When we stop being interested in what we are thinking, then the thoughts have the tendency to gradually calm down. When we are not feeding them with interest. I'll start with a question Marie sent me. Actually, she sent me a Zen Buddhist saying. I quote, "You should meditate every day 20 minutes, except at times when you are too busy, then you should meditate 1 hour." And in the context of that, she asked me, well, she's not immediately meditating now in the morning. Since the 1st of January, she started again the Course of Miracles. And then later, she meditates, and often she's not very quiet. The mind is agitated. And then often when she sits, she thinks, oh, I could also get up and do something else instead of sitting here and thinking. Now, what have I to say to that? I mean, everybody has to find out for themselves how much is good to meditate, whether you want to meditate a short time or a long time, how much comes naturally. And then sometimes it goes easy, sometimes it's not so easy. Sometimes the mind is more agitated, and the moment one sits, the tendency is there, one thinks about so many things. That is not a reason to get up. It's not a reason to think it's useless. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking so much I could do something more useful. It's not very pleasant when we sit there and it just goes rumba, 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 rumba in the mind. But at the same time, it is not useless. Sitting there, trying to be quiet, but not being capable to be quiet, is actually very useful, because there is no other moment when we become equally, clearly aware what's really going on in the mind. As long as we are busy, then the attention is caught up with all the things that we are busy with. But when we sit and try to keep quiet, and we can't, and we are aware of it, we can also just dream away. But the moment one becomes aware and really watches what's going on, there's no other situation in which we really become aware what kind of stuff goes on in the mind. And the very fact of not exactly appreciating it and liking it helps us to detach from that. So, Marie, don't let your mind trick you in immediately getting up when you are not quiet, when there is agitation, but then just be there as quiet as you can and as conscious as you can, and observe as good as you can what's going on, and relax in that. And somehow that observation helps you to become aware, but there is something that is not affected by it. There is an aspect in you that is not affected at all by no matter how much agitation is there on the surface. You don't have to compel yourself to sit for a long time every day, but it's helpful if you have every day some time where you just don't do anything else but being conscious, being consciously conscious, being consciously alive now, here. And be as quiet as you can and relax in that and observe what's going on. Then you can choose for yourself how much time you want to spend for that, but it's helpful if you have a little time every day. And if sometimes it's very agitated, don't think that you are wasting your time. It's just not exactly pleasant to confront the mind that just goes round and round and round, thinking the same things over and over and thinking left and right and in the past, in the future, and so what has happened, what can happen, but being aware of it helps to detach. As long as we are not aware that we are doing that, we are reinforcing that habit of doing that all the time. And then sitting there, trying to keep quiet, being aware that it's not quiet. It's not reinforcing the habit of thinking all the time. In contrary, you see what's going on. You may try to calm it down, and it may not work. And that very feeling of seeing that and not being happy about it helps to detach, and the habit is actually getting weaker. The habit is so strong because without being aware of it, we think all the time, and without being aware of it, we are interested in all the stuff that we are thinking. And once we start to really observe it a bit more neutral, then we become aware how useless most of the things are that go through our mind. In order to function sanely, we have to think. That's a capacity that is there in the human experience to be able to form consciousness into reasonable thoughts. But very rarely our thoughts are so reasonable that they are just following one reasonable thought after another in a proper direction. Most of the time they just go chuck, 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 chuck. And most of the stuff that we are thinking is totally useless. Trying to keep quiet and become aware how much we are thinking, we become aware how useless it is to think so much. But that helps to detach. That helps to let go of being interested in thinking all this all the time. You said, well, for you, that sensing may mean busy in the mind, right? But you don't have to force yourself to sit longer when you are agitated. But don't give it up because it's not pleasant, because it's not quite. Just observe as good as you can. And when we stop being interested in what we are thinking, then the thoughts have the tendency to gradually calm down when we are not feeding them with interest. Don't worry, Mari, this is happening to everybody. Sometimes there are periods it goes quite smoothly, and then sometimes there are periods it seems it never will happen, that you can keep quiet. Just don't give up. And don't give up sitting because of that. It helps. It's not that we just have to sit every day sometime and then we can forget about it. But remember in your activities to connect with the present, to connect with life, to connect with consciousness, consciously connect wherever you are, whatever you are doing. But if you have every day some time where you are doing nothing else, where you can put your undivided attention to do just that, then it's easier to remember when we are busy and to come back to that at least moments in between again and again. This in itself will after that lead to it that you start to be more focused and quieter when you sit, when you do nothing. Is there anybody else who would like to come?
Hi, Werner. Good morning.
Hello, Woody.
Yeah, I would like to go backward to what you have answered to Marie and to say that from time to time, when there are clouds in the sky, after they disappear, the view becomes much clearer and nicer. And is it the same when we have a rough meditation or unpleasant or unsuccessful meditation? We can also gain some benefit for the long run, even though that we thought that the meditation is not so good or easy or calm.
Sure. What counts is the attempt to be consciously conscious, to be really in touch with life, in the timelessness of the present. What counts is that you attempt it. That makes the difference. How much you are successful each time or not, it doesn't really lay in your hands. But that you try, that makes a difference in the long run. Every time you try, you're getting a bit stronger. Even when we are not aware of it in the midst of the process, and we may have periods where we think, I'm just turning round and round and round in the same spot and not getting anywhere. It's not true. Every drop of effort that you put in has a result. And sometimes there are longer periods we are not aware of it, and then suddenly it's again like, oh, it's you feel it. Things are flowing. Something seems to be happening, but subtly it has been building up, building up. So even if you don't have what people usually call good meditations, simply to attempt to be conscious, to attempt to be quiet, is helpful in the long run, definitely. And even actually, even in those times where you cannot sit well, you may not feel very well in the meditation, but if you observe after that, when you get up, you still feel that something good has happened.
So when we are exposed to the feeling of frustration in our spiritual work, which for me at least it's not so uncommon, how we should deal with that? It's look like that we are standing in place, that there is no progression, and then frustration is coming up.
Right. Of course, the mind will always come up with this kind of arguments, but it's not the truth. But it may feel like this. But I remember very well how frustrated often I felt. If I had known at that time what I know now, I could have spared me a lot of grinding my teeth. Of just accepting, okay, this is also a reaction, this is a feeling that comes up, then don't fight against it. then accept also that that feeling of frustration comes up and observe that. See what it is doing to your experience right now and learn to relax. And then if you are not feeding it with always thinking, but it doesn't work, I'm not getting anywhere, it's terrible, but just observing that frustration, then it goes away again. And then you just continue. And your analog is quite right. Like when there are clouds in the sky, when it's raining and after that the sun comes, then the air is again cleaner. And so if you go through a period where it's hard, then something is happening, but we are not aware. And then when it goes, then you become aware, after all, something seems to go on, even if you are not quite clear what. But then you can see then from your reactions to external circumstances that after all, some unfoldment is there, that you may less react to situations that have been upsetting you previous, and this kind of indicators are there, even if we cannot exactly clearly see what is going on. It's not for nothing, definitely. And when frustration comes, then don't fight against it and accept, okay, the feeling comes, and focus on that feeling and focus on its manifestation right now. That in itself brings you to the present. And when you see what reactions are there in the body from that feeling of frustration, then you can work on that and relax that. And then the frustration itself is also gradually fading away.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hari Om. I remember having complained to Amma, I'm struggling, I'm not getting anywhere. It's always the same stuff going on in my mind. I was sitting as much as I could, complaining, I'm sitting day and night on my bum, I'm not getting anywhere, just turning around. And she said, it's just the weakness of the mind to think like this. It's not true. You may feel like this, I can see so clearly that you are going in the good direction. But the mind is always impatient. I want to do some meditation, then I want to see a result. And if I don't see the result that I imagine should happen, then we get impatient and frustrated. It's worth the trouble to continue in spite of that, and not feed the frustration, not feed those emotions that make it that much the more difficult, but see the emotions, observe what they are doing, and relax. And then they go again, and we just continue patiently, steadily.